everyone, welcome to Kelly's Creative Dream Studios, and we are back with week number 2 of our Kelly's Creative Dreams May Junk Journal 23 Color Challenge, where we are featuring Dusty Rose, a Cherry Cobbler, a Pear Pizzazz, and a So Saffron. Now remember, you can bring in any other colors that you want, but your project of whatever you decide to do needs to include your choice of 3 of those 4 colors. And you can switch it up, so whatever colors you work with this week, you can work with totally different 3 colors next week. Just as long as your current project includes at least 3 of those colors. So, last week I introduced you to cabinet cards. And technically they're cabinet cards upscaled, okay? I had a question about what cabinet cards were. Cabinet cards were photographs that were mounted on stiff pieces of cardboard. They came about in about 1860, and the front of the card is usually printed or embossed with the photographer's details, and the back of the cabinet card is often printed with elaborate designs. Changing that up a little bit and just doing it like a scrapbook layout, because last Saturday was National Scrapbook Day, and so we're featuring scrapbook type layouts on all of our cabinet cards for the month of May for this challenge. At least I am. If you want to play with this, I think it's going to be a fun project. But remember, as I said, you can make whatever you want. This is just what I'm doing with this month's challenge. Okay, with that in mind, I went in on Pinterest and I picked out some layouts for single photograph scrapbook layouts. And the one I'm going to play with today is this one. I will link the Pinterest link for this one down below. And I've kind of changed it up a little bit. I'm not doing it exactly like this. But I started by cutting my base of my 5x7 in the, what did I use? Soft suede cardstock from Stampin' Up! And this will be the background cardstock of all, or cardboard of all of my layouts. So I started with this. And I'm going to leave this one lay back over here. Scoot it over so you can see what I'm doing. And then I went through my 12x12 paper pads. I have the front of all my paper pads printed out so I can kind of look through and see what I want before I go down here on the shelf to see what I need. I've got them all cataloged, and I'm going to redo them. I'm not happy with the way I did them the first time, but for now they worked. I'm working with Die Cuts with a View, the Heirloom Stack, and the Paper Studio Theodosia Square. These were the ones I pulled from this time around. And I've left those 2 pads out that I can work with over the next 3 weeks, so that as I put this together, everything becomes cohesive. So here they had the embossing of this page in the background. I did not emboss this, but I did bring in the floral print with this one from Theodosia Square. And I'm going to put it in place. Now, I should have showed you the pictures we're working with, but actually, let me do this. And I'm just down here running my glue runner down here where I've got a little bit more desk room. So bear with me here. Yes, I know I'm out of frame, but you know how a tape runner works. So I've run tape runner around the edges and a couple of pieces into the center. And there doesn't seem to be a right side up or upside down to this sheet. And we're going to put it down in place. Now, the other one I picked out, this one came from, I think this one came from, oh, these were the other 2 I looked at using, and I decided I like this better because it brings in that blush pink and the cherry cobbler and the pink and the green all in one. So I used that, and then I had to cut me a piece of pattern paper, and that one is from the Heirloom Stack. And I had initially stamped out a Tim Holtz stamp on here and was going to use it, but then I found this and I thought this will work. Now it is a little bit wider and I can go back and trim that off, but what I'm going to do first is I am going to distress this one. Bring my distress pad over here. And I'm using, you know what, let me switch out my inks, because I have Close to Cocoa in there, but I think since we're using the soft suede backgrounds, soft suede for the background is what I want to use for this. There it is. So let's use that one. I don't know as I have a dauber for that one. So I'm going to contaminate here, and I'm going to use my one from Close to Cocoa. I got my daubers in, and I have my blank ink spots in, so I can finally finish getting all of my inks put together. I've also been looking over here and realized that I want to switch things up a little bit over here on the filming table as to what's behind me. So I'm going to be changing that up here in the next few days, hopefully. So much to get done before Bob comes home next week. Okay, so I have that inked up a little bit so that it will pop off of here. And we're going to go ahead and run the ink on it. Now, it doesn't need to be perfect because the photos are going to go on top of it anyway. The one thing I do want to make sure of is that my print is right side up. That's my big thing. Okay. And I'm not sure I exactly centered it, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim that side off. Just like that. Okay. So I have that done. Okay, now I had a couple of pictures. This girl was by herself. And then these two were together. And I kind of looked at them and I kind of thought that this lady kind of looked like she might have been this lady's mother. This is an older picture. So I decided for Mother's Day I was going to bring the two of these together. And yes, I did do them on Very Vanilla because I wanted the pictures to pop. And so I'm doing the larger one up there in the corner, and I'm going to do them just like that. So let's come back and do our adhesive on here. They just kind of look like they could have been related. Maybe a mother-daughter, aunt and sister, I don't know. But I thought with Mother's Day coming up, let's pair things up. Now, if you'll notice, there are colored strips over here. I did not do those. Mostly because I'm dealing with a much narrower layout. I mean 5x7 as opposed to what was probably initially a 12x12. And they just weren't all going to fit. So, did that. Just like that. But I did come in with some of this. I found these die cuts from a my brain's there. Found them as part of a die set from Stampin' Up! That was called Parisian Dies, and I did that little squirrely cut out of there. Let me try that again. Parisian Dies, that little squirrely. Wasn't sure if I was in frame. Then I'm going to come back with some glue dots, and I'm going to focus mostly on the stem part because I want the movement of that larger part of the more delicate pieces of that. So I'm going to put a dot there, and I'm going to stick relatively close to that and do another one up in here because even if there's any of that showing, it's going to be hidden by my flower. And because I had the Very Vanilla going, I pulled this from my scrap rack. These were from Hobby Lobby in their wedding department. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this off of here. And we're going to send it right about there. I have to stay within this, and I've decided that because everything is over here close, I know that I'm going to wind up putting a strip along the side of all the cabinet cards before I punch them to hold into the to put them in my book. Now I'm going to come back with my craft glue. This is similar to Fibra-Tac, but it's much heavier glue. It's more like a school glue. And I think I'm just going to use a palette knife for that. Take a little bit on my palette knife. Put it on the back of my flower because I want this to hold in place, and it doesn't take much. And come back in here like that. I like the pearls in the center of that. It really adds to the, oh crumb. It really adds to the vintage look. But before I put that down, I was supposed to put this in place. So let's see, since that's not glued, since it's paper traced, let's see if we can bring that up enough in this corner. And this is where, one of the reasons using double-sided tape is a good idea. I decided when I was playing with this earlier, I liked this to be down here in this corner. So I'm going to try and lift this up gracefully. Get my finger out of the twirly so I don't lose it. And I want it to position about here under the flower, so I'm going to use my pokey tool. Poke me a hole to run my brad through. And this, I believe, was a Tim Holtz brad. Now I get back there on the back. Did it not? Trying to see if it's got a, I only see one prong in place, but that's okay. And then I'll come back and I'll run this in here again and stick that down good. And there we have our cabinet card for this week, inspired by this one. And I had pulled out another die, I thought, that said family on it, and I don't know where that die went. Ah, here it is. It is from Stampin' Up's well-written dies. And I was going to do that one. I think, no, that's friend. I thought I had family on here. Happy wishes. Maybe I looked at that one and thought it said family. Could have been. I need to cut all of these out and put them on the card when I put them in their envelope so I can see what they say, because sometimes you can't always read them backwards. So, guess not, won't use. Oh, but that one would have been a good twirly to use too, wouldn't it have? But anyway, we have another cabinet card for this collection. I've gone through and picked out several. The idea is when doing scrapbook pages, you need to have a mat. You should have a background of some type. Bring in the colors from your photos. But since we're working with vintage, our colors are being inspired by the, I'm thinking, by the vintage age of the photos as opposed to colors in the photos. And then some of these little, if you can add florals, anything that's soft, anything that provides movement, and anything that is a metal or is very tactile to your page, then you're on a roll. They can be as simple or as involved as you want. For this, because of the 5x7 area that we are working on, I am sticking mostly to simple layouts. And so when we come back next Wednesday, I will have another one for you. In the meantime, remember, Monday, let's see, there will be a premiere on Friday. We will be here at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Remember to come back and join me, and I'll show you what I'm going to be playing with. May even be playing with another one of these. Who knows? And then Monday, we have our first official Memory Decks video. And then we'll be back here on Wednesday with another cabinet card. Thanks for joining me in the studio today. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you then. Creative blessings.